Gallup recently conducted a survey of Americans to figure out whether or not they are in favor of the direction that the United States is headed in. And unsurprisingly, this survey showed that there is even more division among Republicans and Democrats. Both parties completely disagree about whether or not they're in favor of the direction the country is going in. To give you an example, according to this Gallup survey, 6 in 10 Republicans, 61%, say they are satisfied with the way things are going in the country. The highest level of satisfaction recorded among the GOP rank and file since 2007. So it seems as though they're in favor of some of these policies that Trump has been pushing for, maybe even in favor of some of the rhetoric that he has been, putting out there in regard to race relations. Democrats, though, disagree. 7% of Democrats told pollsters they are satisfied with the direction of the country. So the vast majority of Democrats are unhappy. Now, if you look at the country as a whole, though, the majority of Americans are not happy with how things are going. Just 29% of Americans are satisfied with the direction of the country. Since Trump became president, those figures have ranged from 21% to 32%. Nearly 7 in 10 Americans, 69%, say that they are dissatisfied.
Okay, so a couple of important notes here. One is about the overall numbers, the other is about the pattern. So the overall numbers, don't be confused, are terrible. 29% of the country saying we're on the right path is not a good number. The Republicans keep fooling themselves that there's magic involved in Trump just because he beat Hillary Clinton, who was disastrously unpopular in the country. But in 2018, Trump's not even on the ballot. It's going to be all those Republicans trying to defend incredibly unpopular policies, and we're sitting there at a 29% and going in the right direction. Those are terrible numbers. And if you do the math on that, you're gonna get crushed. And by the way, it's not like Republicans don't know it, they do know it. That's why a record 30 Republicans have already announced they're running for the hills. They're retiring, they don't want to go up for the next election because they know they're gonna lose. So sometimes the mainstream media drives me crazy because they don't report these numbers as something that is really, really bad. I mean, you see the Republicans running from the building with their hair on fire, and they just say like, oh, it's just Trump, it's just Trump. But they never, ever criticize the Republican Party. So now, speaking of criticizing the Republican Party, 61% of Republican voters, I mean, they picked Trump, they had 17 choices. They took the most maniacal, the most hateful one out of the bunch, the biggest bully. That wasn't the, that wasn't the bug, that was the features, I keep telling you. And so they look at it and go, oh, he's calling these countries terrible places, he's calling these people that, he's calling those people that. Well, great, I like that. That's why I voted for him. So let's understand who the Republican voters are. They look at Trump and think mission accomplished.
So, okay, so I always, look, I find that so fascinating because yes, I agree with you that the rhetoric is not something that they reject. It is something that they have embraced. It's something that was very prominent during the election, and they signed on for that. But if you look at the policies and what Trump promised, the coverage of Trump's policies are very favorable toward him, very generous toward him. But the reality is he hasn't kept up with the majority of his promises. The Affordable Care Act, failed on that. The tax plan, deeply unpopular, even among those on the right, okay? Because everyone knows there are huge, huge tax cuts and handouts to corporations and the wealthiest people in the country. Okay, the border wall, nothing's been constructed and Mexico's not paying for it, and he's hounding Congress about funding it, which is why the latest immigration proposal included $1.9 billion to fund the border wall. That's our taxpayer money going toward that nonsense, right? But again, hasn't built it yet. I mean, it's failure after failure after failure when it comes to legislation and policy. And I wonder whether or not they look at those failures at all. If it's just the lure of his hateful rhetoric that keeps them going.
No, that's two great points. So one, we should never forget that Trump said a billion times during the campaign that the Mexicans were going to pay for the wall. So this is a good time to think about and talk about it because, hey guys, what happened? I thought, like, if I'm in a budget negotiation and I'm a Democrat, I'm going to say, well, no, that's okay. I'm quoting your president. Trump said that we don't have to pay for the wall. So I'm not going to put anything in the budget for it. He said that he was going to magically have the Mexicans pay for it. So have Mexico send the money. I'm done with that. Let's move on, right? So of course they know that the president's an idiot and a liar, but then that asks the questions of Republican voters. I thought your tough guy was going to get the Mexicans to pay for it. Isn't he a loser? Isn't he an incompetent liar loser who was lying the whole time, or is a buffoon and didn't know what the hell he was talking about? Which one is it? Was he a liar or was he a buffoon? Because the Mexicans are certainly not paying for that wall. It's coming out of your pocket, and they're never going to be able to build the whole thing. Okay, now the second point is what you pointed out there, the incompetence. Actually, his lowest numbers were in October because the tax plan had not passed, so he had gotten nothing done, nothing. So Republicans were super pissed. Independents thought this guy's incompetent. Democrats didn't like him anyway. So now his numbers have picked up a little bit. Stock market is booming. So the rich are getting richer. Congratulations. And on top of that, they got one thing done. So for example, with independents, he was down at 20%. Wow, 20% with independents down in October. Now the pattern is he's back up to 31% with independents, which is a terrible number. Only 31% of independents think that the country's headed in the right direction. So yes, at least that one tax cut, even though it is deeply unpopular, they were like, oh, he got one thing done. He got one thing done, right? And Democrats, by the way, when you're helping him fund his wall, you should think about that. Don't help him get other things done, you knuckleheads.
Exactly.
The things that Americans don't want anyway. You think the wall is popular? It's not. Okay, you think DACA is unpopular, you're an idiot. The DREAM Act just insists on a clean bill. It's 70% popular in the country, including a majority of Republicans, but they have no political sense at all. Anyway, numbers are real. 2018, I told you from the very beginning, is going to be a great mystery, and I don't know which way it's going to go, but every day the jury will start to come in a little bit more and a little bit more. Now we're only a couple of weeks into the year, but this is part of the jury, and the jury just came in with a note saying, we really, really don't like Trump. And that could affect the 2018 elections in a big way. Another part of the jury that came in, Darrell Issa last week ran for the hills. 30 Republicans not going to run again. These are really bad signs for the Republicans. So 2018 starting to look, it's just the beginning, but starting to look like it might be a bloodbath for the Republicans. Don't lose sight of that. It's hard not to get frustrated that 61% of Republicans think, nailed it, right? But the great majority of the country does not agree with them. If you become a member of the Young Turks, you'll be saying,
you know, I'm like a smart person.
So do it right now, tytnetwork.com/join. Get the whole Young Turks show every day.